In the studio is the new USAID South Sudan Mission Director, David Thompson. David arrived in Juba on October 3rd. He joined the USAID Foreign Service in 2003 until recently. He served for 4 years as a Deputy Coordinator for Power Africa, based in Pretoria, South Africa. David also served as Deputy Mission Director for USAID Tanzania. He has worked in Afghanistan, Brazil, Albania, and other countries. It's nice having you on iRadio this morning, Thompson.
Shukran, and thank you very much for having me here today. Thank
Sabah al-khair. Sabah al-nur.
Sabah al-nur.
Yes. You have had an impressive journey and development work across many countries. Can you tell us about that journey and what brought you to South Sudan?
Yeah, thank you very much. So my journey in international development began over 30 years ago as a Peace Corps volunteer in Tunisia. Since then, I've had the privilege of working across Africa, Eastern Europe, Asia, and the Western Hemisphere. And as you mentioned, my most recent roles as Power Africa Deputy Coordinator based in Pretoria, South Africa, and as the USAID Deputy Mission Director in Tanzania. And so when I was getting into international development, my career didn't quite make sense to me, but now in retrospect, as I look back at my career, I think it's just been an incredible journey, and it leads me here to South Sudan, and I'm so very privileged to be here. It's the culmination of a career. It's a real challenge, and so I'm here to do my best on the part of the U.S. government, USAID, the South Sudanese people, to do what we can do, the best that we can do with our resources. I'm also here to help in the U.S. government's call on the transitional government to use its own resources for services and support to the people of this country. South Sudan has unique challenges, but also great potential, and so it's a tremendous responsibility for us all and an opportunity to contribute meaningfully to the development of this country.
That's great. You have been in South Sudan for 2 months now. What are your impressions so far?
Well, first of all, I have to say the warmth of the people. Everybody has been so welcoming, so open. South Sudan is almost by definition a country of great resilience and potential. I've seen the determination of the South Sudanese people in striving to make their country better, even in the face of immense challenges. I've seen communities working hard to build a brighter future, and it's inspiring to be part of that. It brings a lot of energy.
You are the USAID Mission Director first. For our listeners who might not know, can you explain what USAID is? And second, what does the Mission Director do? What does a typical day look like for you as Thompson?
Sure, that's a good question and a great place to start. So USAID, or the United States Agency for International Development, is the U.S. government's lead international development and humanitarian assistance agency. So we work with partners around the world, but here in South Sudan we work to address critical needs like humanitarian assistance and promoting healthcare, education, democracy and human rights, economic prosperity, and food security. USAID assistance began in what is today South Sudan decades before this country's independence. And we have a long history supporting the South Sudanese people, but it also includes tragedy. In the early 90s, 4 of our colleagues here who were based in Juba at our USAID compound, which is now our embassy compound, were taken, tortured, and killed by the Bashir regime. Today, we face challenges, and we have our implementing partners whose staff face warrantless detention, who face very challenging situations, and part of my day tends to be navigating those unfortunate challenges. So as mission director, I lead USAID overall in South Sudan. I align our programs with U.S. foreign policy objectives and supporting the aspirations of the South Sudanese people. This means working closely with our South Sudanese and international partners, setting priorities that balance immediate humanitarian needs with long-term development needs, and ensuring our resources are directed where they can have the greatest impact. A typical day can involve anything from meeting with South Sudanese and international partners to reviewing program progress or discussing strategy with my team. I spend much of my time working with others to find innovative ways to overcome challenges, and as I mentioned, addressing day-to-day, let's say, roadblocks or impediments to the assistance that we're delivering. Largely that's put in place by the transitional government. Having said that, so I must add that the South Sudanese people deserve peace, human rights, and democracy, none of which the transitional government is currently demonstrating a desire to achieve. And so fair and credible elections are the best way to achieve these goals. And so we again call on the transitional government to use public revenue transparently to provide for the needs of its people.
Yes. Speaking of vision and leadership, what are your priorities for the next year?
So my priorities align closely with USAID's mission to support the South Sudanese people and promote peace through our development and humanitarian programs. Over the next year, I'll focus on enhancing humanitarian assistance to address immediate needs while continuing to invest in long-term development programs. So key areas include supporting education for youth, strengthening healthcare systems, expanding economic opportunities, and promoting democracy, human rights, and good governance. Another priority is ensuring our assistance reaches the most vulnerable communities efficiently and transparently. Much more can be done if South Sudan creates an environment conducive to effective development assistance and responsible private sector investment.
Yes. You talk about promoting democracy, human rights, and good governance. Will the U.S. government support elections in this country in 2026?
Sure. So that's a really good question. Now, for democracy to thrive, this country needs free and fair elections to elect leaders who will be accountable to the people of South Sudan. This country has resources that when transparently and appropriately, that when used transparently and appropriately, could support elections without looking for external support. That's how we see it. Before considering supporting the elections in 2026, we want to see demonstrable evidence that the transitional government is making real efforts and progress toward that goal.
Yes. Thompson, USAID is the largest donor in South Sudan. Could you highlight some of the U.S. government investment in South Sudan and explain how USAID balances its humanitarian and development portfolios?
Sure. So the American people, through USAID, are indeed the largest donor to South Sudan. The numerous crises in South Sudan currently include food insecurity, flooding, cholera, inflation, the influx of refugees and returnees fleeing conflict in neighboring Sudan, and many others, all in the context of an unresponsive transitional government. This means that most of our work focuses on responding to those crises to reduce human suffering. The U.S. government has been a steadfast partner to South Sudan, providing over $700 million in life-saving humanitarian assistance in the past year alone. The U.S. government also contributes through the State Department for refugee programs and the State Department and the Centers for Disease Control to the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, known as PEPFAR. We are also the largest funder of UN programs here. Simultaneously, we've invested more than $55 million in development assistance this past year. This focuses on democracy and governance, education and youth, economic growth, and health. and we've invested nearly $12 million in PEPFAR alongside our Department of State and CDC colleagues. Balancing these efforts ensures we address urgent humanitarian needs and lays the groundwork for long-term sustainable development. Since 2011, the U.S. government has contributed $8.4 billion in development and humanitarian assistance to South Sudan. So our humanitarian assistance programs support multiple UN agencies and international and South Sudanese NGOs to bolster food security across South Sudan and deliver life-saving health and water and sanitation services. Just last week I was up in Bentiu visiting the IDP camp there, and I saw both the support that we provide to the people there and also around the growing cholera epidemic there. Overall, this year we have assisted over 3 million people. Lastly, I think I want to say our development programs are designed to empower South Sudanese communities, and so in education we support initiatives that enhance literacy and provide vocational training for youth. One of our flagship education activities will help 25,000 youths aged 15 to 29 to improve functional literacy and numeracy skills and provide life skills for employment. In healthcare, our focus includes strengthening health systems and expanding access to essential services. USAID supports prevention, investigation, and response to outbreaks countrywide through its global health security program. In addition, over 80% of the people on HIV/AIDS treatment in the country are U.S. government funded, of which 26% are through USAID. Economically, we're fostering entrepreneurship and improving agricultural practices to boost livelihoods. And so these efforts aim to create an environment where individuals can thrive and contribute to the nation's development.
Yes. There is some good comments from our those who are listening to us on social media. Before proceed with some questions, there is a message here from Atenyi Roar saying, "Thank you, David Thompson. My Almighty God bless you."
Thank you.
There is a message here from John Hobb saying, "Thank you for the great service that you're doing to the people of South Sudan." And also one from Bashir Ali Gonasa, he say, "My Almighty God also help you and your future." Triple ATM, he say, "Good morning to you, Hawari, and your guests in the studio." Also, there is some good messages here. We can take them later. But the next question is, you mentioned some of the challenges faced by South Sudan. How is USAID addressing this crisis, and what more can be done?
Sure. So first, thank you, listeners, for the comments. They're appreciated. So the humanitarian landscape in South Sudan is indeed complex. Our approach involves providing immediate relief, such as food, clean water, shelter, and health care to those affected by natural disasters and conflict. For instance, amid worsening seasonal flooding and the arrival of over 800,000 returnees and refugees from neighboring Sudan, we've scaled up our efforts to reach the most vulnerable populations. However, addressing these crises requires collective action, and we continue to work closely with local communities, international partners, and the transitional government to enhance coordination and effectiveness in our response. But simply put, the transitional government needs to do more.
Yes. Beyond the challenges faced by the people of South Sudan, what operational challenges does USAID face in its development and humanitarian activities here?
So USAID has faced significant challenges in South Sudan, from natural disasters like flooding to the influx of returnees and refugees. The humanitarian needs are immense, and delivering aid in remote and conflict-prone areas, presents logistical hurdles. It's very, very challenging. Yet the transitional government neglects its responsibility to use public funds appropriately and transparently to provide for the needs of its people. And often we see, I think this is not, alien to your South Sudanese listeners, the challenges of day-to-day life, unexpected fees, roadblocks, hurdles that they face in day-to-day life. Well, we face the same things when we're delivering our humanitarian and other development assistance, including from unexpected fees and taxes to detention of our partner staff. There are bureaucratic impediments and government interference in UN and NGO work. We've seen the restrictive draft of the NGO Act and the labor policy application at the lower levels, interfering with the work of our partners. Numerous river and road checkpoints, asset seizures, and illegal taxes make humanitarian work very difficult. There have been cases of attacks on humanitarian workers, and our partner staff have been threatened and detained by security forces as they do their work. Warrantless detention does exist. We do not support the transitional government directly, as we believe it would be irresponsible to do so at this time. And additionally, South Sudan's economic crisis and governance issues compound the difficulty of creating lasting change. Despite these challenges, we remain committed to supporting the South Sudanese people and working with our partners to adapt and find innovative solutions. This includes calling on the transitional government to play a greater role in alleviating the suffering of the people of South Sudan.
Yes. I want to return to something you mentioned earlier. What roles do democracy, human rights, and good governance play in USAID's development strategy? And how do you ensure inclusivity in these programs?
So democracy, human rights, and good governance are pillars of sustainable development. And I might say that iRadio is a great champion of these values. Our program supports civil society organizations, promote human rights, and encourage transparent and accountable governance. Inclusivity is central in our approach, and so we actively engage marginalized groups, including women and youth, ensuring their voices are heard and their needs are addressed in the development process.
Yes. We go for a short break and then we'll come back again.
Development process.
Yes. We go for a short break and then we'll come back again.
عشان تقوم بهم إيالتكم الأمور تمن أقل من 5 سنوات من شلل أطفال. حتى كان إيالتكم عملوا لهم انتتين قبل كده لازم أمون بلقوا لقاح تشلل أطفال ده من أجل زيادة تحماية تمن. وخلال حملة تتايم ده إيالتكم بلقوا قطرتين من لقاح تشلل أطفال. في فريق بيجان يلفوا من بيت لبيت عشان بتايموا إيالتكم الأمور تمن أقل من 5 سنوات ومن بعمل علامة في إيدا الشمال. وفريق ده كان موصلوا في بيت التفي فوقه أو قرية التفي فوقه أو محل التفي فوقه لازم كتبوا وري للشيخ الحلة تتاكم أو زول الكبير في محل التفي فوقه ده أو يتبروها في أقرب محل تمرفق صحي. شلل أطفال ده بقدر سببوا شلل وحتى إيال ده بقدر موتوا. لازم كده تتايموا إيالتك يا ليلة عشان لقاح تشلل أطفال وآمن ومجاني. عشان تبعرف معلومات كتير قوم بزيارة أقرب مرفق صحي منيتا أو تبقدر دوقوا في رقم المجاني ياو 6666 أو 2222. رسالة ده قدموا لكم من وزارة الصحة ومنظمة الصحة العالمية ويونيسيف وشركات تومون.
As floods approach, our government is prepared. Local teams are ready to assist. Stay calm, follow official guidance, and prioritize your safety. Together, we protect our communities. Act now.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Water, Resources and Irrigation under the Regional Climate Resilience Program for Eastern and Southern Africa with funding from the World Bank.
في 10 من ديسمبر كانون الأول ننضم إلى العالم في إحياء اليوم العالمي لحقوق الإنسان. للاحتفال بيوم حقوق الإنسان لهذا العام سيستضيف الاتحاد الأوروبي وشركاؤه مناقشة حول المساءلة وحقوق الإنسان في جامعة جوبا في 10 من ديسمبر 2024 من الساعة 4 إلى 6 مساء في هذا اليوم. تذكروا أن التغيير يبدأ معك. احترم الآخرين. تحدثوا من أجل العدالة والمساءلة. معا يمكننا إنشاء جنوب السودان حيث الكرامة والحرية والعدالة ليست مجرد مثل بل حقيقة للجميع. هذه الرسالة مقدمة لكم من قبل بعثة الاتحاد الأوروبي في جنوب السودان بالتعاون مع مفوضية حقوق الإنسان في جنوب السودان بالتعاون مع سفارات فرنسا وألمانيا ومملكة هولندا ومفوضية الأمم المتحدة السامية لحقوق الإنسان والشباب والمجتمع المدني والشركاء الإعلاميين.
Good morning. Good morning. It's iRadio.
Yes indeed, good morning. It's iRadio لكل مستمع في كل مكان. ضيف حقنا الفلسطيني بنتكلم معه هو مدير بتاع بعثة بتاع وكالة الأمريكية للتنمية الدولية في جنوب السودان ديفيد تومسون، وهو بيتكلم لنا عن شغل بتعمل هم شغالين فيه، وهو جاء في جوبا هنا يوم 3 شهر 10 كمدير جديد للبعثة، وهو بيتكلم لنا عن شغل هم بيشتغلوا فيه. كمستمع عارف انا متاكد انت عارف انه شنو هو الوكاله الامريكيه للتنميه الدوليه بيشتغل في جنوب السودان من خلال الفتره الفاتة حتى فتره بتاع التحرير، وكنا بنعرف كثير. تومسون, I want you to elaborate on what you see as the transitional government's role in responding to humanitarian emergencies such as floods, drought, and farming, and providing its people with education, health, and economic opportunities.
Well, shukran. So the transitional government has a critical role in responding to emergencies by mobilizing resources, improving disaster preparedness, and ensuring that public funds are used transparently for the benefit of the South Sudanese people. South Sudanese leaders must also create the conditions that enable effective international support by fostering stability and accountability. Leaders need to take ownership of these challenges and prioritize the needs of their citizens.
Yes. And like in some countries, USAID doesn't work directly with the government. In South Sudan, why is it that? And how do you ensure your programs still have a positive impact?
So the United States believes the people of South Sudan deserve better from their transitional government, which must demonstrate progress in peace and governance. And until that happens, it would be irresponsible for the U.S. government through USAID to work directly with the government. We will continue to partner with the communities, the people, with civil society and other partners to ensure assistance reaches those in need effectively and transparently.
What steps is USAID taking to ensure that funds and resources are used effectively and reach the people who need them most?
Sure. So accountability is at the heart of our operations. We implement rigorous monitoring and evaluation processes. We conduct regular audits, and we maintain open communication channels with our partners and beneficiaries. So these measures help us track progress, identify challenges, and ensure that our resources are making the intended impact. And we're open to feedback, whether it's positive or negative, critical, on the assistance we provide. We're open to that and want to always improve on the assistance that we provide.
Yes. Lastly, how can South Sudanese citizens partner with the USAID and benefit from its programs, and what message do you have for them?
Okay, thank you. So we believe in the power of community engagement, and so citizens can participate by connecting with local organizations that partner with USAID or other development partners. They can attend community meetings. As we saw in Bentiu, they can volunteer to be leaders in their communities. They can provide feedback on the programs that we support. We also encourage individuals to stay informed through local media, such as through iRadio. And just engage as much as they can in outreach events where we share information about ongoing and upcoming initiatives. And so I encourage all South Sudanese to engage actively with any activities in their communities to the best of their ability. Your participation and feedback are vital in shaping initiatives that meet your needs. And so by working together, we can build a South Sudan that is peaceful, prosperous, and inclusive for all.
Thank you, David Thompson, the new USAID South Sudan Mission Director.
Shukran.
Shukran jazilan.
Happy holidays to all the fine, lovely people of South Sudan.
Thank you so much.